Have you ever thought about how hard it was to gain rights as an African American in the years 1951 to 1964? Well, in this narrated slideshow, I will be teaching you all about that. The Civil Rights Act was about having universal rights for all people, no matter their race, religion, or gender. Before the 1960s, African Americans were banned from tons of public spaces, such as restrooms, movie theaters, and even restaurants. They also had to live in different neighborhoods. This was called segregation. An important event happened in 1951 involving an African American student named Linda Brown. She was banned from a school close to her home, so she had to ride the bus to a black school on the other side of town. Linda's father and many other parents sued the school board. By 1954, the case had gone up to the Supreme Court. The court ruled that segregation in public schools is unconstitutional. Another important event that happened was caused by an African American activist named Rosa Parks. This happened in 1955. She took a seat reserved for a white person on a public bus in Montgomery, Alabama. When the white bus driver told Miss Parks to give up her seat, she refused. She was arrested. This led to the Montgomery Bus Boycott. The Montgomery Bus Boycott started with activists Joanne Robinson and Martin Luther King Jr. They made it so most African Americans from Montgomery, Alabama, would not take the bus and walk wherever they needed to go. In 1956, a little bit after the boycott started, the Supreme Court banned segregated buses. There were even more events. Another one was called sit-ins. It started in 1960. Sit-ins were when black students visited white-only lunch counters. They just sat there until they were served or until the store was closed. As a result of that, they were arrested or harassed. They would sit there for almost 5 hours a day. Isn't that astonishing? Another example of peaceful protest is freedom rides. In 1961, freedom rides started. They were there to make sure that the buses were integrated and to make sure that black people and white people were sitting next to each other. Freedom rides were meant to, and sit-ins were meant to be peaceful protests. In 1963, hundreds of thousands of people marched through the heart of the country's capital. This was called the March on Washington. That was also when Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the I Have a Dream speech. Just 1 year after the March on Washington happened, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed. It outlawed all discrimination. Thanks for listening.